Hello, friends, and welcome back to r/IDontWorkHereLady. And our first story for today. Crazy woman with Stepford kids. But before we start, if you're new here, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss a new video every single day. So, I was with my work partner and we were standing in the checkout line at a store. We were buying supplies for the forensic unit, so of course we were wearing our uniforms with our radios chittering away, listing off traffic stops, accidents, or whatever was going on in the city at the time. We commonly get mistaken for police officers, so when we're out and about in the city not responding to crime scenes, we have to be polite and professional at all times. There were only 2 registers open, and we were about 5th or 6th in line to the register. In front of us was a lady with 5 small children. One was in a stroller, and of the other 4, I'd guess the eldest was 7 or maybe 8 at most. This lady was actively negotiating with 3 of the children about how much the snacks they wanted cost and how much of their money they would have to give up to purchase said snacks. This went on for at least 10 minutes while we all moved closer to the register. None of the children ended up buying any snacks. A few minutes later, the woman with the children was at the register. The woman turned to wrangle one of her children, saw us, and said, "Oh look, police officers. But they do other things besides the police we see. Ask them what they do." Then she looked at me and snapped her fingers at me. For the record, when she snapped her fingers, it was over the head of one of her children and about 2 feet from my face. I blinked in surprise because I think the last time anyone snapped their fingers at me like that, I was probably 5 years old. I didn't initially react because of the shock, so I'm sure my resting B face hadn't moved. I've been told my RBF is powerful. She breathed an exasperated sigh, waved her hand at me in a hurried, dismissive wave, and said very loudly, "Tell them what you do," and went back to speaking to the clerk, who, for the record, during my exchange with the woman, was looking at me with a horrified expression on his face. I was then looking at 4 very small faces with wide eyes. No one spoke. We all just kind of looked at each other. I glanced at my work partner and noticed he had a pretty perplexed look on his face. I know for a fact he was mulling over in his head, as was I, as to how we could politely cuss this woman out, but alas, neither of us could do that. My work partner shrugged at me. I turned back to the children. Apparently realizing nothing was happening, the woman turned and exclaimed, "Ask her what she does," and like some crap out of the Stepford Wives, all 4, at the same time, with the same monotone voice, asked me, "What do you do?" Oh no, not creepy at all. Not one bit. I'm pretty sure I took a step back. I know my work partner did because his radio hit a display and knocked some packages of candy onto the floor. As he scrambled to get all of the packages off the floor, I gave the children some basic info describing what my work partner and I do. And it was obvious they had no idea what I was talking about. As one, they turned to look at their mother, who was demanding the clerk honor an expired coupon, and then they looked back at me. I blinked. You see, normally kids want to know what all my gear on my belt is for, or try on my hat, or ask why I have 2 pocket knives, or play with my flashlight. These kids just stared at me. Even my radio went silent. "Do you have any questions?" I asked. Nothing. No response. The woman was nearly in a frenzy with the cashier, who'd now called over a manager to assist him. I turned to look at my work partner, who was now actively looking at anything but me or these children. And then we heard the voice of angels on the store intercom proclaim, "Register 7's open." My work partner and I fled to Register 7. I don't work here. Oh yeah, I don't work there either. I was out and about running errands this weekend when I got my second IDWHL experience. This time I was at a pet store, ready to stock up on scratching pads for my cat and snackos for the doggos. I'm always on the lookout for new friends to give some good ear scratches to at the pet stores. So I cover lots of ground looking up and down aisles without actually holding much, if anything, in my hands. I guess that's what drew the attention of this Karen, since it seemed like she tracked me through a couple of aisles before she could catch up. The initial interaction was standard fare. "Where's this?" "I don't know." "Why not? You should." "I don't work here." Statements ignored, shrillness going to 11, etc. But this Karen did something weird. She listened. I had repeated once again that I didn't work here, and she replied, "Fine. You don't work here, but you're still a jerk. I want to talk to your manager wherever you do work. Oh, really now? This is where things got fun. Engage petty revenge mode, power level 9001. I replied, well, you're in luck because I actually work across the street at food services location and was just trying to grab some stuff in here on my break. My manager's on shift, so you can go talk to him right now. With a triumphant look on her face, she sneered, we'll see if you'll be finishing that shift, and strode out. I crap you not, she left her cart right there in the freaking aisle with stuff in it. So I continued on my way, finally found the scratching pads, gave a few ear scratches, scratched a persistent itch in my nose, damned allergies, but even with the pet dander, hashtag worth it. All the scratching you could ever want, and then some. I was about ready to head out the front door to check out when I saw Karen storming down the aisle toward me once again. Oh, the fury on her face was priceless. She huffed and puffed and blew nothing down as she trundled up to me, screeching, they said they have no idea what you're talking about. They don't even know who you are. Me. Oh yeah, I don't work there either. Karen. Then why the F did you tell me you did? Me. I don't know. I figured it made as much sense as you thinking I worked here. Then, going beyond what anyone would consider to be a rational thought, she reached for me. Guessing by her hand's track, she was going to try to collar me. Now, for those who remember my first post about a foray into a local Walmart during pre-Thanksgiving madness, you'll recall that I'm in the military. While I've never seen direct combat, being an Air Force officer who flies a desk, I do understand the basics of various infantry things. For example, the concept of fire superiority. In the case of projectile warfare, oftentimes the best way to stop the bad guy from throwing killy stuff at you is to throw an overwhelming amount of killy stuff at him. He ducks down behind killy stuff blocky things, and then you can maneuver without killy stuff coming at you. This principle can be applied in a great many other aspects of life as a way to prevent things from happening. I chose to apply it here. As soon as she reached for me, I engaged my military voice, used that diaphragm, and said, B, if you touch me, I will effing end you. Her hand froze in midair. What did you say? What did you call me? You heard me. I will end you. Karen tentatively pulled her hand back, eyes locked on mine, fear finally creeping in behind them. All right, I better be going, I told her, before you do something you can't come back from. I left her frozen in place, went to the front, paid for my items, and went about my merry way. The doggos enjoyed their snackos, the cat attacked the bag that I brought everything home in, and since I didn't have to use my AK, today was a good day. Don't like my new policy? Take it up to my dad, the CEO. Okay, let's dance. Not my story, but something that happened with my uncle in the early 2000s in South Korea. So my uncle was in an upper division head position for the company he was working for. He practically did most of the heavy lifting, so he was considered a valuable asset to the company. Everyone loved him. He had a wife and a then grade school-age son, aka my cousin. He was paid well. What everyone loved about him the most was that he tried to get along with everyone in the building. And I mean everyone. From the interns who just started to the ladies at the front desk, and even all the way to the janitorial ladies. He always made sure to greet and chat with them, and always made them feel like they belonged. Trust me, this is important later. In came Mi Jin, a 25-year-old woman who was the new staff to join the company. Right off the bat, she was placed a few ranks above my uncle, and he was annoyed that a younger person was giving him orders, but he had a family to take care of, so he decided to play along. At first, Mi Jin wasn't all that bad. She finished with masters in business and had plenty of internship experience in the United States, so her skills and tactics helped the company quite a lot. My uncle began to like her. Until she dropped the bombshell of a policy. Apparently, she didn't like the fact that the office workers were sharing the lunch cafeteria with the janitorial staff. So she made a new policy: janitors aren't allowed lunch. She didn't mean they couldn't use the cafeteria. She was literally taking away their lunch break. She ordered my uncle to be the one to break the news. My uncle did not like this, so he contested every time she was bringing this up. It finally got to the point where she revealed how she had the audacity to make such a policy. She revealed herself to be the daughter of the CEO of the company, and she said, as my uncle quoted, "If you don't like my new policy, then take it up to my dad, the CEO. I can ruin your life in an instant. This is just a taste of what's to come once I inherit the company and become the new CEO." This is when he'd had enough and began to meticulously plan her downfall. He first told the new policy to the janitorial staff, and they were PO'd. He assured them, though, that he'd set it straight and told them all they had to do was make their voices heard. And he gave them a few ideas. For the next few days, they went on a strike, letting everyone know how they are underpaid and starved while working there. My uncle admitted that the strike released all the built-up frustration, and things that came out of the janitor crew were a bit more than he asked for. Some he wasn't even aware of and shocked to hear about. Mistreatment that was going on behind his back, office folks leaving too big of a mess everywhere, underpay, physical pains, long hours, etc. Now granted, a few of them my uncle was aware of, but not to the extent the janitor team described it as. So the CEO gets involved. He put in a lot of effort to negotiate and calm them down before the Korean version of the Department of Labor got involved with the lawsuit. He promised that they would be treated better and paid better. So when the dust settled, he demanded to know who was the one that implemented the policy in the first place. Mi-jin tried to coerce my uncle to take the fall, but he complied with what she said and took it to the CEO. He showed the new policy document signed by her, which even included a part about terminating anyone who spoke against the policy. Now the CEO was PO'd and was originally planning to fire his daughter. Apparently he knew about her entitled nature for a long time, but never expected it to impact so many people. Mi-jin begged to stay, and the CEO allowed her to do so, at the cost of a demotion from her current role. Which role was she moved to, you may ask? She was moved to the trainee position of the janitorial team. And on her first day, the CEO even said to them, "Please don't go easy on her. Be strict." She quit after a mere week in her new role. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video to the end, and I'll see you in the next one.